Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Nosebleed Seats. I'm the Mad Conservative Crime Fighter. My special guest at this time, the duo of Connor Riley and Andy Roberts, better known as the R&R Escorts. Now, I got this strange question from NGW superfan Bree.
Okay.
She wants to know, are your names Neil and Bob, or is that just what you do?
I've never.
I don't know.
I got that joke now. It's a gay joke.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
funny.
is that what it
That
is?
is
It's like
fine.
I've never heard that one, but it's gotta
It
be
took me a
shoot of
second.
some
It took me a
kind.
second to once you actually said it, I got that. That was a gay joke.
So who's
Bree,
what's-
that was nonsense.
that was
You should be
nonsense.
ashamed of
I'm gonna
yourself.
bite my tongue on this situation here.
By the way,
because
you
he
haven't
wants
been to
some
an
nonsense.
NGW show in forever. What's the problem?
There's
You're a
cowboy
fanatic.
somewhere.
Come on.
Cowboys and Indians down there.
Now, Connor, the last time you appeared on a talk show,
Oh my God, heat magnet. Go ahead.
you're getting bashed about quite a bit for a number of things, whether it was on Ringside Chat or Off the Ropes. Is there anything you wish to add or defend about either?
Every time I go on one of these shows, I get heat. So as soon as this airs, I can expect a phone call from someone in about 2 days. I'm sure it just happens.
Ringside what? And off the hoop?
Off the Ropes, I'm fairly sure isn't on TV anymore. So
Same
and
goes with
Ringside
Ringside
Chat,
Chat.
I didn't know if that was ever on TV. Anyways, but go ahead.
Sadly, it was on TV, and that kind of ushered my motivation to get this show on the air. Besides, what?
You know what? I will say this. I'm going to say one thing nice. Dirt, I will steal his Bruiser Brody shirt, and I give him credit for owning that. Other than that, go right ahead.
You also got considerable flack for criticism of the now reigning New Midwest champion, Benz, which I got into in a prior NBS interview. Have you got a chance to see him in action?
I still haven't seen him wrestle. I'm sorry. I've seen one match of him, and it was against him and the Hybrids back in March, and that's the only match I've ever seen the guy. And like I said, I called Benz, and I apologized to him, and I said, man, if I ever make it up to New Midwest, I'll be the first guy to shake your hand and go, man, sorry, probably shouldn't have done that on the air. And, you know, then Benz and Scotty got their shots back in on me, and that's cool, I'm not going to shoot on, I'm going to
I tempered their shots against you because the other person was not repetitive at all.
Well, and, you know, then that's what he deserved. And, you know, like I said, I got no problem with him. I still haven't seen the guy wrestle, so I can't say if my opinion is changing because I've never seen the guy wrestle. He seems like a nice guy on the phone, though.
I got a couple of more matches of his online.
Well, see,
there's a
go.
couple out there. I
There
don't
you
think
go.
you've seen them all. This is a question for both of you. Your stories on starting out and training as wrestlers. Connor, you started out in GAW and 3CW, and Andy, you started at Next Generation and Ultimate Velocity Wrestling.
Aye.
Yeah,
Or at least that's the first places I've seen you
the
wrestle.
wrestling company we like to forget about.
Oh. Hey, they're coming back someday.
And that's the first incarnation of UVW, not the second.
They're coming back someday. Don't
No,
bury
they're
it
not
yet.
coming back.
No, don't wish that upon anyone.
Go ahead.
Not a chance.
I have a different story than a lot of people getting into wrestling. I grew up at home with no cable television for years and years and years. Not because we were poor, just my dad got fired from the cable company in the '80s and held a grudge forever. So when we moved away from that,
Wait a minute, you didn't get Dish TV?
No Dish TV. No, it's just the
Direct TV.
the good old four: the NBC, the ABC, the CBS, and the one that never came in, whatever that was. Good old bunny ear antenna. Fox, yeah.
Go ahead.
But no, so when we moved out, moved away from my dad, we got cable, and that's when I started watching wrestling. So I went probably 10 or 11 years before I actually started watching wrestling itself. And wrestling was something that was not allowed in the house. So it was obviously the young, underage, find something to rebel against, and that was watching wrestling.
Why didn't that want you watching professional wrestling?
My mom is against the ruthless aggression, which the more and more I'm involved, she just doesn't care anymore. But she had a misidea of what it was. Now she understands it for what it is. No big deal. But anyway, jumping ahead a few
You should
years.
have took her to a live show.
Hey, jumping ahead a few years. I heard of Next Generation Wrestling. This is at the time they were on Adams Street downtown at the Peoria Athletic Club, and so I went to a couple shows. And personally, I think NGW's come leaps and bounds since that point in time.
That's most definitely.
Back then, it was very you either had it or it was just you didn't. And so after watching a few guys in the ring, and it was just something to me where I thought, wow, I could probably I could probably do this. Met with the booker and promoter at that point in time, and about a month later, I started training. But it was different because nowadays you see a lot of people come in that are either what we like to call backyarders or people that just think they can do it from day one. And I came in with a clean slate. I had never tried anything. I'd never attempted to do anything on anybody, so it was an easy mold to make, I think. With that, though, I was very impressionable to a lot of things, which kind of led to the Ultimate Velocity. I didn't understand what a good show was and what a bad show was. I was just happy to work somewhere at that point in time. But my first singles match was for Ultimate Velocity Wrestling on February 19th, 2006 against Stumpy.
And guess what? I was calling play-by-play.
We were calling play-by-play.
I don't remember that.
I don't know, it just some sticks in my head.
I remember it.
I remember there were about 6 people there. Most of the people were 3CW guys too, the rosters.
Well, there was
as the
bar
audience.
patrons, yeah. Not very good attendance.
It was a low draw, but it was a learning experience. And then shortly after that, I debuted up in NGW as an active roster member, and not the towel boy.
Dude, that was a good gimmick,
The
though.
towel boy, oh my.
Connor?
I actually, basically, I'm a Southern boy. I got a lot of family in Kentucky. My grandfather was a big wrestling fan. He just kind of watching it with him just kind of brought me into it instantly. He unfortunately never got to see me in the ring, which kind of sucked. He passed on about a year or so ago, but which was bad. But you know what? It's my grandma keeps telling me he's watching for the best seat in the house, so I can't argue with that. But did that, and then I actually went to a school with Michael Fine. We went up to a school up in Peatone, Illinois, and the head trainer at the time was CM Punk. Back before CM Punk was CM Punk. He was
famous.
People was like, yeah, he's random indie guy A. And he got us in the ring and worked just a real quick 5-10 minutes with us and sent us on the way. And we came back a few minutes later, and he had actually been brought up to ROH, and so he was no longer part of their roster. So we, kind of did the whole thing. He actually came up to NGW, and I was living in Clinton, went down to GW's first show, and then started training 2 days after their first show. And just kind of rolled the ball from there and worked with 3CW a little bit and got my head in got way over my head a couple times, especially in the St. Louis area, and probably was places I probably shouldn't have been yet, and it was obvious.
Well, time-wise, what's the timeline on that?
Oh, late 2004.
You started, when you made your debut, you actually were debuted as an announcer under the name Colin McDowell.
Right, and I started out as announcing. And then I slowly
Chris Lee's sidekick, actually.
Yeah, actually, ironically, that's why Chris Lee says he's my friend and whatnot. That's back before.
He says your opinion.
I know he's not here. And I'm not trying to bash Chris because I do love Chris to death. But at that time, Chris did not know as much as he did now. He has come leaps and bounds in his wrestling knowledge. There were a few times where he would call something and I'd nudge him and say what it was, and he'd go, "Yeah, that's what I meant." But
he's yelling at him half the time too. That's another thing.
Yeah, he's come leaps and bounds. He really has, and I'm very proud of everything he's accomplished with the show. But I started taking some bookings in 3CW, and I took one up in New Breed, and back before anyone knew what New Breed was, and took.
Was that in 06?
Oh, it was early. It was they had Colt Cabana and Diego and the Naturals on their show, and I mean this is before anybody.
Going back to 2005 probably.
I don't even know when it was. I'm going to be honest. And like I said, I went to St. Louis, and I probably shouldn't have been there, but there were some questionable folks that got me in there, so it was kind of.
Yeah,
but you know what?
Name that must not be mentioned.
We will let dead dogs lie. No pun intended.
Yeah, I don't want.
No pun intended.
I don't bring that.
Anyways,
back.
go ahead.
Where's? I guess describe your first match. You said Stumpy. You wrestled Stumpy.
I wrestled Stumpy.
My first match was against a very large gentleman that a lot of people in this area know pretty darn well. He hits like a truck. It was Madman, honestly.
You wrestled Madman first?
My first match was against Mississippi Madman, and he annihilated me. Good God.
So it was a big-time jobber squash.
It was about a minute and a half, and it was about 10 seconds of me offense and about a minute 20 of Madman just annihilating me. And I walked to the back, and everyone thought, oh, this kid's going to quit, and I said, thank you for the opportunity. When's the next show?
You know what? You should have went for his legs.
You know what? I should have. But really, all I thought is, good God, this man's twice my size. What'd you say?
Chop down the redwood trees.
Well, I'm telling you right now, there wasn't chopping down anything when he got a hold of me. There was a lot of just wait till it's over.
Andy, go ahead and describe your match. I was there, so I kind of have an
Oh
idea.
man, I still have that match. I just watched it the other day, actually.
There's a tape out there?
Oh yes, but it's hidden.
I'll put it on YouTube.
Somebody better send it to me.
No, there's just the
One of the best and the best of the worst of UVW.
Oh, the best of the worst. Oh,
Best of the worst.
Let's keep that up. Let's incinerate that DVD. No, somebody dropped that off to me the other day, and it had about my first 5 or 6 matches on there, and there are about 5 or 6 matches I wish to forget. But you know, you can appreciate it because you've come leaps and bounds since then. But Work Stompy, I was scared to death. It was my first match. I was ready. I don't know. I thought I was ready. My bumps, everything was great.
Well, there was a problem with the ring. It was made of wood.
Yes, that's kind of what made everybody a little nervous. For those who don't know, there's a difference between a wrestling ring and a boxing ring, and neither of them feel great. Let's be obvious. Let's be honest here. But a boxing ring is about 10 times worse than a wrestling ring. But that's just me personally. I don't know. But I wrestled Stompy, and we went about 8 minutes. I don't know. I believe I was a heel in the match.
Yeah, I think you're playing the bad guy. You're calling yourself unbelievable. And
Unbelievable.
like,
Andy Roberts was born.
oh, this
that
guy!
day, so.
Look at the veracity and arrogance of this guy, and like.
Yeah, so that was UVW, and then I believe a week or 2 later it was the start of NGW for me.
You were in a battle royal. Your first NGW match, you were in a battle royal.
That was in December. There was a fan appreciation night in December of '05, and that was getting stuck in the battle royal. And I've never heard a crowd go more crazy for somebody eliminating themselves.
It was definite. When you jumped
out there.
Well, in his defense, he was in between Sinister and Stumpy. So when he finally got free, exactly. So when he finally got free and he hopped on that top rope, you thought he had just won the main event of WrestleMania. The crowd was going nuts. They were so happy that he wasn't,
He was
dead.
running away. I guess I could ask, where have you all wrestled so far? Promotions.
Oh man, I've done. Let's see.
Besides the ones mentioned.
Yeah, Next Generation Wrestling, GAW, New Breed, Supreme League, SLW, New Midwest,
OSWA.
OSWA. OSWA.
We'll get there.
I've worked some of Bobby Houston's, couple Bobby Houston shows.
LPW.
Yeah, I didn't know if he calls it Live Pro Wrestling, if he has a name,
That's
or if
all
he
it
just
is.
runs spot shows. So, worked with Bobby Houston for a little bit. Most recently, been doing some work with Buck Zumoff up. He travels all around in Illinois, Minnesota, North Dakota. That's Rock and Roll Wrestling. And then where else did we go up there? We went to Pro Midwest Wrestling up in Bacchus, Minnesota.
Well, that's way up there.
Yeah, that's a bit of a drive.
What are your favorite matches that you've been in?
My favorite match. It's a toss-up. It's actually a tie. I was working for the same place. I was actually working for Buck Zumoff, and we did 2 shows for him. One was like a Friday night, and one was like 3 weeks later on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. The Friday night, I actually wrestled Buck, and I wrestled him for like 25 minutes. And I mean, it was outside. It was the middle of summer, so it was hot, and we were just. It was nighttime, but it was still hot. I was dying out there, but we worked like 25 minutes, and.
You kept up with him for 20. The
Yes,
match went that long.
Yes, I did. Well, by the power of the armbar, my friend.
Buck's good stuff.
Buck's good. Yeah, I just
So you
worked his
basically
arm.
kept one hold for like 5-10 minutes at a time.
I know like 20 different armbar variations. Honestly, I'm not even like BSing in the least. Like for some reason, I could work an arm all day. Probably
so you were doing submission style.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what you were doing.
And
Okay.
basically, I worked him, and it was a huge match. It got over great. When we had the dirty finish, the crowd was so furious. It was a long walk to the locker room. And then a few weeks later on a Saturday night in Paulie's in Bloomington, I worked Chuck Ray, and there was like 200 people in this tiny bar, and I mean it was wall-to-wall people. You had to get them to move to get to the ring because there was no path whatsoever. And they said go out there and cut a promo. So I'm out there cutting a promo in front of these drunk college guys, and they are chanting profane things at my name at me. And luckily my name was on the back of my tights, so they knew what to chant, but they were chanting very profane things. We went out there, worked, and the end of the match was Chuck hit me with the German suplex, hit me 1, 2, 3, and it was huge. They went nuts, and there were people handing him beers before he could get out of the ring.
Oh.
So he was just having a blast, and they were high-fiving him. And
Paps for everyone.
and if anyone's who ever met Chuck, you know that is probably the best thing that could ever happen to the guy, is being handed a beer before he gets out of the ring, let alone on the way to the back. They were throwing stuff at me, and it felt so good to be. It sounds weird, but it felt so good to be so hated.
Andy?
Oh man, favorite matches. Anything that I've got to do with Buck has been an honor and a treat. They may not have always been the most technical, profound matches I've ever done, but getting to work with him, just getting to sit there and talk with him for about 6 minutes is worth 6 months of training. He knows so much. He's been everywhere. He's wrestled literally everyone, from the Hogans to the Pipers to the Flairs. I mean, he's worked with everyone. But usually when I work for Buck, I wrestle a guy by the name of Shim Dog. That's how he goes. And he and I,
from Minnesota.
He's from Minnesota. Pretty big up there. And Shim and I just tear the house down every time we get together. As far as locally, anytime I get in the ring with Ryan Phoenix, it's awesome. Ryan, you hear the guys with the World Wrestling Entertainment compare people to their Chris Benoit, and I know he may still be a touchy issue, but I mean, there are a lot of guys that when they got in their hand, it was just magic. And for whatever reason, when Phoenix and I get in there, it's gold. I think my favorite NGW match thus far was probably Ace of Spades 2006. It was that we built that, just because how we built that was magic. And we built that we were in a faction called the New Era, which turned into Trifecta, and we built it for about 6 months, and it all accumulated with all 4 of us in that gauntlet match, and it was just that match was awesome. I wasn't in it. I was probably in about 4 or 5 minutes, but that match was awesome.
What got you interested in becoming a wrestler, and that the wrestling business was for you? And how long have you been at it?
First time I stepped through the curtain and then back through it, I knew there was no. There was always. I always had the desire, but the first time I stepped through the curtain and then came back out and stepped back through, I knew it was a done deal. It was this is it. There's no turning back now.
Man, I don't know. Again, just given my background with wrestling, not being able to start till I was 10 or 11, I think the moment that I knew that I wanted to do this, and I'm gonna go all out of myself here.
Oh God.
The night at Next Generation Wrestling down on Adams Street, when Brett Kakia, who was Brett wrestling? Brett was wrestling somebody, and I think maybe Ray, but or even maybe Chris Hazard. I really don't remember who he was working, but I know he hit the Dragonfly suplex off the top and kicked the ceiling lights out.
It was against Ray.
It was against Ray, and
that clip is out there.
I went berserk. That clip is out there, and if you look very closely in that clip, there's a guy who stands up and goes absolutely nuts. And that guy, I like to pretend is not me, going crazy, but it is me. And that was the night that I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I started, and once training was brutal. I took beating after beating after beating, but once I got to it, it was just that's what I knew I was doing.
Anything additional about going on tour with Buck Simoff in Minnesota and North Dakota?
Oh man, Buck.
We covered a lot of that already.
Can I?
Oh.
Okay, Buck has. I'm sorry. It needs to be brought up. Buck has. Buck does midget wrestling. It's one of the different gimmicks.
Well, a midget versus female.
Okay. Well, originally
match.
he had 2 midgets, but one of them was in prison. I'll be honest. One of them was in prison for not paying his child support. If you really want to get into it. But anyways,
let's not.
Let's not.
Go ahead.
Anyways, he has another midget works for him, Jay the Leprechaun, and if anyone's ever seen Ice Age.
Sammy, I hope you're watching right now.
I'll link it to you, Sammy. He is that character from Ice Age. I can't remember the name, but you meet Jay and you talk to him, and all you can picture is that little ferret thing from Ice Age, because
that chases the nut.
That's Jay. It honest to God is. It's if he was a human, they based that character off him. I promise they did. And he's a moron. I'm sorry, Jay's a moron, and I hate that midget. No, seriously, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Am I lying? Do you know anyone that likes that midget?
No,
Okay.
I really don't.
I like I
He's a
hate
bad guy midget.
It's not no. It's,
No, it's Jay's
I
Jay.
almost actually beat the crap out of him
Jay-
the night I
Jay
wrestled
is-
Chuck at Paul A's.
Jay is Jay.
He thinks every girl wants him.
Going
And
up.
he'll
Well, is
just
that why he wrestles women?
he'll
Oh,
just
God.
he'll just
What are we
go
doing
up
here?
and hey sweetheart, how are you? And just
No,
Good God.
Jay is Jay. Going up to Minnesota and North Dakota was awesome. I think you didn't go with that one. I was up that one. I
No.
flew up there, and then we worked a show in Bacchus. Well, Windsor, North Dakota first. We went to Windsor, and the town was like a population of 100 people. The bar that we worked in was the gas station as well as the grocery store and the entertainment pool hall. So, I mean, it was all in one.
DVD rental.
Buck's got a 10-foot ring for smaller bars, which is just
There's hardly
incredible.
room to wrestle.
Hey, you know,
that's
That's why
there's a room
NCW's
for
ring
what-
was the smallest.
That's where you wrestle though.
Buck's, it's a big, it's very
Can't do
old school.
anything.
There's plenty to
Referee
do.
has to sit out.
Plenty to do.
Has to stand outside the ring.
But I mean, that show was fun. We got into a huge bar fight that night. There was a guy who just, I swear he was kneeing himself so hard, he was doing the whole come on, and kneed himself in the face, and then got so mad that he started hitting people. So that ended up interesting. But then we went, that was probably a 6-hour car ride with myself and Buck and Heather, and who else was on it? Jared Darkside was on us with that show too. And then I stayed with Buck that night up in his guest room, which was a treat just because his house is incredible. He's got so much history in his house as far as wrestling goes, and he's more than happy to just take the time and just talk to you about the business.
This is a guy that taught Hulk Hogan what the hot tag meant.
Yeah,
I mean, for those who don't
That's a
really,
great
you've
story.
never understood,
They
really
had
don't know
him
that.
as a jobber in WWE.
He had to. This is the guy that explained to Hulk Hogan what a hot tag was. This is the guy that said, "No, you can't get in the ring until I tag you, because then the crowd will be bigger." So I mean,
well, this is also the guy that taught Hogan how to lace his boots.
yeah.
That's what's
So
even
I mean,
funnier.
so
So-
you know,
He trained Hogan.
No, he didn't train
He taught
Hogan,
him
but
how to
Hogan
lace
did
his
not
boots
know how to
physically.
lace up his boots.
Buck taught him
That's
how
why
to lace
Hogan
his
wasn't in tags and didn't win a tag title until he was like, I don't know, 50 years old.
Hey,
With Edge.
Hogan was a marketable guy, and that's what did it.
Well,
for
but
him.
I'm saying, so when we talk about Buck, some people I know are gonna be like, who's that? This guy's legitimate. This is a guy who's done it. This is a guy that's wrestled.
Anybody that doesn't know who Buck Zumoff is, if you have ESPN Classic, watch old AWA wrestling.
Oh,
I believe it was
God.
done at midnight. And Buck's
He's
on
an
there.
80s wrestler.
Buck's on there quite a bit. He was the cruiserweight champion there for a long time, so check that out.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left on this segment. We're going to set this aside for the next half. Andy, explain the Zack Slater character. Whatever
The
happened
Slater
to
character.
it?
Okay. The Zack Slater character is what it sounds. It's a Saved by the Bell. That 90s kid Zack Slater. It's Saved by the Bell spinoff. I have a pair of absolutely ridiculous gray biker tights that have neon colors all over them. And I was talking, I believe it was to Stumpy up at Bobby Houston's show up in Sterling, Illinois, about how ridiculous these tights were. And they're human heat magnets, because they look at them and they're like, wow, that is the most ugly pair of tights I've ever seen. Next to Tripsy's quilt pants. I hate those, but whatever. So we're sitting there, it's like, it really does look like the beginning of Saved by the Bell, and the whole blurry screens up with the colors. And I was like, and then it started talking. It's like, oh, you look kind of like AC Slater. I don't know where that came from, but okay. So it was one thing after another, and then Zack Slater was born, and it's not a very serious gimmick. It's definitely a let's get this guy over gimmick, but it's fun. I love doing it. I work it usually for Bobby Houston, and I worked it in New Midwest, and I haven't worked for them since last November, actually. Just one thing after another between me breaking my hand and then just whatever, you go away for a while and it's hard to get you back in. So.
You also did something called the Andy Roberts Show.
Andy Roberts Show. Oh no. Look that one up on YouTube. The Andy Roberts Show is me being me. People that really know me know that I'm very goofy when I just have a weird sense of humor. I like to have fun. because personally, when I stress and stress and stress and stress, then my hair blows, my mind just blows up. I can't concentrate. So I go back and I like to be goofy. So one of the ladies who tapes it at Great American Wrestling, we just got the idea. I said, hey, you know what? I was just being my goofy self in the back after a show, and bring a camera along. Let's see what happens. But that is how we caught Gavin Alexander.
I want to say something real quick on that matter. The gun we actually used for the hunting of Gavin Alexander. Actually, I was at Walmart a couple of years ago. There's a safety recall on that gun.
We could have
Honest
done
to God, there's a safety recall on it. So I'm gonna have to take that. So yeah, that's now
so we got our money.
a relic.
We get our money back.
That's a relic.
It's a relic. We get our money back on it. There we go. Save a penny.
I guess we'll transition. Why the ragging on Gavin Alexander?
How much time you got?
No, got about 2 minutes.
On a serious note, you know why we give Gavin crap?
Because we love him like a brother.
Because yeah, that's 3 minutes. We love him like a brother. But no, seriously, the reason we rag on Gavin is because if you always know that one kid where the more you pick on him, the madder he gets, and you know it's that easy to make him mad.
And not encouraging this.
That's Gavin Alexander.
Don't pick on kids. It's mean.
That's Gavin Alexander. The more you pick on him, the madder he gets, and it'll go on forever.
But
it's like, how mad can we make him?
But at the end of the day, for what it's worth,
Well, he's gotten mad enough to break somebody's nose. That sound man's nose.
for what it's worth, Gavin is a guy that whether you love him or hate him in the ring, and I'm going to be indifferent to that. I'm not even going to go into that issue.
I hate him.
But if you tell him to do something, no matter what, you could tell him he has to dress up like an ugly pirate and wrestle as Captain Stabbin for the night, and he'll do it. And
That's
it
true,
may
he
take
will.
some convincing, but he'll do anything for a book. So God bless him for that.
Or a burrito.
Or a burrito, yes.
He was in a hot dog and a pole match, for God's sakes.
So he'll do what he takes to get booked, but that's where I'm stopping on that one.
I do love you like a brother, though.
Andy, you had expose how good wrestling can be.
Expose, that's a nasty word.
Or explain.
Explain. I think wrestling can be great. I think at this day and age, it has a very, very frowned upon view right now, especially with as big as the UFC's gotten. I think the problem with that is it hasn't been exposed for what it is yet. I'm waiting for the day where it can be, people will find out that, you get paid X amount of dollars to take a fall at X amount of time. When people realize that, they're just going to look at it and be like, oh man, what idiots. I just think it's, you look at it like this, it's kind of interesting that Lesnar's Couture fight is in Minnesota. I'm just saying. And, Vince promotes it too.
No kidding.
But it's something where I think the biggest problem in this day and age is it's too easy to get into it, which I'm a hypocrite for saying that because I got in easy. So I'll be the first to admit that I'm a hypocrite for saying it because I got into business easy. But at the same time, once you're in, you learn to protect it a little more. It's something where if there was, I'm a firm believer in sanctioning it to an extent. I don't think anybody should just be able to buy a ring and start a show because that's what kills it. Then there's always a show. You're always seeing the same guys. It's easy to get booked because everybody needs workers at some point in time. And I really think if there was, I was thinking about this last night actually, if there was, even if you kept the main three in this area, which in my opinion are Next Gen, New Midwest, and GW on a good day, on a good book, but that's here nor there. Those three markets, I mean, it's golden. Or even if it was New Midwest and Next Generation Wrestling, and we drew the line, Bloomington, Peoria up, Decatur, Springfield down. It's just something where there's too much out there for too many people to see.
Oversaturated market,
And
something you say constantly. I agree with you now. I didn't agree with you before.
I mean, look at what happened the other week. Like, so what's PWE? I got a friend.
We'll get that to our next segment.
So-
We are out of time. We'll see you next week. We'll have more with Andy Roberts and Connor Riley.